It's the National Reining Horse Association Derby. So big, it's the one they just call the Derby. And the crowd here in OKC is primed for a showdown.
You hear that back there, and I mean, it really gets them heated up and ready to go.
Definitely something I'm dreaming about.
First time Level 4 qualifier Abbie Lengel heads into the Derby finals with the highest score in the go-round. But aspiring champion Franco Bertolani has two great horses qualified and was just half a point back in the prelim, along with all-time leading rider and multiple Derby champion Sean Flaherty. Andrea Fappani will be in the mix, riding Congress champion All-American Vintage and NRBC champion Chick Dreamin'.
We actually did a bunch of Reds riding competition and just kind of changed it up on him.
Andrea will explain, and we'll see the highlights coming up.
Coming up on Your Horse Inside and Out, sponsored by Behringer Ingelheim, we're going to talk about how stomach ulcers can affect a horse's performance.
That and more on Horse of the West.
The Western horse was a master of a hard world, pitted for centuries against half-wild bovines. Ferocious predators, brutal weather, and the sheer size of the country they had to cover. Their descendants are still nimble, fast, and courageous, with a rock-solid disposition that makes them beloved the world over. In this next half hour, you'll see them in action here on Horse of the West.
Welcome to Horse of the West. The Derby is one of two National Reining Horse Association events held at legendary State Fair Park in Oklahoma City, where the association is headquartered. It has a long and distinguished history and is one of Reining's big three events, including the Futurity and the National Reining Breeders' Classic in Katy, Texas. This year's Derby boasts a payout of nearly $1 million. More than 240 horses were entered in the Open Division. 32 made this Level 4 final. Reining fans have already been thrilled by a non-pro Derby final capped by a runoff between NRHA $1 million non-pro Jose Vasquez and Sandy Benteen, who won the title. The raucous crowd is expecting nothing less from the Open final as the professionals ride into the spotlight.
Yeah, when you're standing back in the Super Barn and you look down the chute towards the ring and you see that sign, Gateway of Champions, I mean, if that doesn't get you excited about coming down that ramp to get into this floor, then nothing will.
All derbies in the NRHA are for horses ages 4, 5, and 6. The Level 4 Open Division is for the highest earning professionals in the sport. Ride order is decided by draw. Most riders prefer to go near the end, but somebody has to start things off, and that somebody this time is Jimmy Vanderhoeven of Whitesboro, Texas, riding Casey and Kathy Hinton's Guaranteed a Magnum by Magnum with a Dream.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I have to go draw one, so that was new to me, but yeah, it was boss lady's fault.
Did Kathy draw?
She drew.
That boss is Kathy Hinton, and Jimmy has ridden for Kathy and her husband Casey so long that fellow trainer and distributor of nicknames Casey Deary has dubbed him Jimmy Vanderhinton.
Well, he's like our son. He's been with us 9 years, and he's just like our kid, and he's always a team player, and it's always been a team between the three of us, and we root for him like he roots for Casey, and it's great.
We trade horses around training-wise, we trade them around showing-wise, and the formula and the recipe that we've been has been unbelievable successful for us.
And that has been the case for this 5-year-old gelding nicknamed Amos.
I started riding him like the end of the last year. Casey got done with him showing, and he told me I could kind of start riding him and keep him in shape and get to know him. And then we took him to the beginning Acre Chase shows to kind of get a feel for him, and NRBC was the first time I actually showed him. And I marked 24 on him over there, and he was really good. That was the first one I ever showed him, so I was pretty pleased with that.
Jimmy builds on that score with a 225, which is actually 3 points higher than his score in the prelim, and a very high bar for the riders to come. It's extremely rare for a score to hold from draw 1 to the end of a final, but Jimmy's eligible for both Level 3 and Level 4, so he may pick up the Level 3 title even if one of the top-level riders bests his score. And up next is one of the guys who could do just that, $5 million rider Andrea Fappani of Scottsdale, Arizona, on Congress champion and NRHA Futurity Reserve champion, All-American Vintage, owned by Kogi Reining Horses USA. But they rack up some big lead penalties which will put them out of the running. Andrea, though, will be back on his second horse, NRBC champion Chick Dreamin'. $1 million rider Jason Van Landingham of Whitesboro, Texas, is another former champion with 2 nice horses qualified. Here's the first. No Smoking Required by NRHA Hall of Fame member and $10 million sire, Gunner.
He's never missed an open finals, which, not many horses as a 5-year-old can say that. So I'm proud of that horse. He tried hard. I mean, he turned and circled, and he went down there and he stopped, but just didn't have that explosiveness like I had in the go-around when he was a little fresher. So just my bad. I kind of screwed it up.
Maybe so, but Jason and No Smoking Required still earn a $221 from the judges, which will put them in second. NRHA $1 Million rider Casey Deary of Weatherford, Texas, is riding a horse named Tinker with Dreams that's not earned a big title yet, but he sure has the breeding to do it. By Tinker with Guns out of This Chick's Done Dreamin', a show mare that was pivotal to Casey's career. Casey says he didn't ask the 4-year-old for enough speed off the start of his run here in the final because the horse had been a little too ready to run the night before in the practice pen.
He surprised me a little. I had prepared him last night, and I think he watched the last horse race, thought he was justified going through the gates last night. But he was good. He was good around the ends. He stopped good, rolled back clean. He was a good boy. I was proud of him.
From the judges here at the NRHA Derby Open Final, it's a 220.5 for Casey Deary and Tinker with Dreams. The judges award the same score to Italian Gennaro Lindi. He's riding a son of NRHA Hall of Fame member and $10 million sire Wimpy's Little Step, named Sugar Little Step, owned by Quarter Dream SRL, also of Italy.
This horse came in from Italy, had to be quarantined.
Yeah, he's a shipper, and we flew from Italy, so it was a really long trip for him, but everything was organized in a great way, so he arrived here in shape, and he really was good in the first go-round. Maybe was a little bit tired tonight in the final, but he still had a good run.
So far, Jimmy Vanderhoeven's 225 from draw 1 is still holding, but he's been here before, leading the National Reigning Breeders' Classic for a while.
I know it's a long way to go, but that's a good feeling to be in the lead for now.
Yes, ma'am. Makes me famous for a second.
Still a long way to go in this 2018 NRHA Derby Open Championship final, with a lot of great riders yet to go, including 4 straight $1 million plus riders and former champions, including Jason and his second horse, Shining in Town, who marked a 225 in the prelim.
And everybody keeps saying, man, he just keeps getting better. So I think there's a major event win in there for that horse.
Will this be the night for them, or will Andrea Fapani and Chick Dreamin' add the NRHA Derby to their NRBC title?
I could feel that he was getting a little tired at the end of last year, so we took a little break. We decided not to show him in the first derbies of the year.
How Andrea used ranch riding to prepare for the Derby and the conclusion of the Open Championship coming up. Coverage of the NRHA Derby Open Championship final is generously sponsored by the Alpha Quarter Horses Production Sale, August 29th through September 5th, online at plushorsesales.com.
You're watching Horse of the West on RFD TV, presented by the Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Welcome back to Horse of the West, where the score from the first draw of the NRHA Derby Open Championship final is still holding. Jimmy Vanderhoeven's 225 on board Casey and Kathy Hinton's Guaranteed a Magnum.
It was amazing to walk in at the beginning of the finals. First horse out of the box, 225. I mean, you throw that down, let the rest of the boys in the barn think about it. That's a heck of a competition and a great way to start the show.
But the big boys are about to roll in with $4 million plus riders and former champions of this event in a row, beginning with NRHA $3 million rider Craig Smersall. He's on a stallion owned by Tim Anderson named Gun Dunnett. They bought this son of Gunner from Hall of Fame members Tim and Colleen McQuay just a couple of months ago.
Tim and Colleen called me at the NRBC and said he'd be for sale, and I said I'd be right over to ride him, and I hopped on him and I rode him for a few minutes, and I said, I'll see what I can do, and I got Tim to come over and look at him, and he says, let's do it. So
Craig hasn't had much time yet on this stallion, who is still fairly young.
He's really good. I didn't really know what to expect for a 4-year-old. He hung in there. I was pretty happy with him. I feel like I have a good future ahead of us, and I was really happy with him, I mean, I'm excited for next year.
Andrea Fapani won the 2017 National Reigning Breeders' Classic on Chick Dreamin', but he felt this horse needed a break, so they kept him out of the early reigning derbies this year and instead let him show in ranch riding.
They associate that arena with the same patterns all the time, and just the fact that ranch riding is good because it incorporates some of the maneuvers of the reining, so it's not something completely different. They'll go in and do the same maneuvers but put together different, so sometimes it's good on these older guys.
Andrea Fapani earns a solid 223 from the judges on Chick Dreamin', a 6-year-old who will be headed for the breeding shed after this last Derby season is over.
We've got quite a few mares lined up for next year, so I'm sure he'll be happy.
Jordan Larson of Whitesboro, Texas, is riding Ron McCrory's 5-year-old stallion Gunshot in Tinseltown, a son of Gunner that has taken Jordan to the finals every time out and has consistently scored 221, which is what he earns here in Oklahoma City. Jordan says there is more horse here.
Like tonight I had a little turn penalty and then had a little misguiding across the middle, so could have been a 23, 24 pretty easy, but just little stuff. So it's in there. It's getting better. He's getting better.
It's also a 221 for Jason Van Landingham on his second mount, another 5-year-old stallion. Shining in town by $1 Million sire Hollywood's Tinseltown is owned by NRHA Hall of Fame member Carol Rose and has consistently been knocking at the door.
And I'm proud of him. You know, tonight I just didn't get it done. I mean, I couldn't really tell you exactly why. You know, I was in the last set and he didn't have much ground, but normally that horse, I just trust him anyhow, and you could tell he was kind of slipping and trying to grab it, but he held in there anyhow, so he got a respectable score, but wasn't quite as good as he could have been.
And yet one more 221 for Jonathan Baruch and Mark and Kathy Gordon's Wimpy's Smokin' Girl. This is a 5-year-old mare by Wimpy's Little Step that Jonathan just started riding a couple of months ago.
And we just wanted to see, she did it as a 4-year-old, wanted to see if she's more horse as a 5-year-old, and she really came to the party all through this week. I mean, she showed great for me in the prelims and she showed great for me in the finals. I don't think there's anything she could have done better. I didn't get to see my video yet and criticize myself, but I think we're pretty good.
Only one woman has won the NRHA Derby Open Championship, but this next rider has a chance. Abbie Lengel and Ark Gunamarkia, who won the prelim with the 226.5.
This is my first level 4 Open Finals, so it's very exciting.
Abbie will take aim at the 225 of Jimmy Vanderhooven and guaranteed a magnum when we return. Coverage of the NRHA Derby Open Championship Final is generously sponsored by the Alpha Quarter Horses Production Sale, August 29th through September 5th, online at plushorsesales.com.
Your Horse Inside and Out with Dr. Joe Carter, sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim.
Performance problems or issues with training are not always related to something about the horse's mentation or maybe a soundness or leg problem. It can also be related to a stomach problem. Think about when your stomach hurts, you kind of want to bend over, you don't want to stretch out quite as well. Think about that if a horse had a stomach ulcer and what kind of heartburn and pain that might create. There's a lot of performance complaints or general complaints we hear from horsemen and trainers about their horses that could be related to ulcers. First of all, lack of an appetite. They show up at a horse show, hey, my horse isn't eating. A lot of times we'll give them a double dose, 2 full tubes of GastroGuard just to get right on it and settle down the acid and the stomach upset that might have occurred from the haul. Inappetence, not wanting to eat very well. You know, horse, you cinch them up through their midline or belly. You know, if they have an ulcer, sometimes they'll react to that. Sometimes these horses are nervous, they're fretful, you know, they're dreading the work that they're getting ready to do or something in their process. So you can just imagine, take a look at this picture right here. This is a picture of stomach ulcers in a horse. On this side right here, this is a nice normal looking stomach, this white shiny portion. Here's a stomach that's eaten up with ulcers. See all these discolored spots? And this is very discomforting and painful to a horse. And so we have some great treatments for that with GastroGuard. We also have UlcerGuard that's a preventative. And remember, the generic compounds are not stable, so that the active ingredient omeprazole is really only effective in these FDA-approved products, UlcerGuard and GastroGuard. So not all performance problems are related to soundness or mental problems. Sometimes it's their intestinal tract. And speak with your veterinarian, and I'm Dr. Joe Carter with Your Horse Inside and Out.
Your Horse Inside and Out is sponsored by Boehringer Ingelheim. Learn more at unbridledyourpotential.com. Before making any decisions about your horse's health, be sure to contact your veterinarian.
Yearlings and embryos by stallions like Wimpy's Little Step, Gunner, and Magnum Chick Dream, out of top performance mares including Chexanicki and Shining and Sassy, available for sale online. It's the Alpha Quarter Horses Production Sale, August 29th through September 5th. Bid simply and securely online at plushorsesales.com. The Alpha Quarter Horses online production sale. Bidding opens August 29th at plushorsesales.com. Welcome back to Horse of the West and the National Reining Horse Association Derby Open Championship Final. Jimmy Vanderhoeven is hanging tough at the top of the scoreboard with that 225 he scored on the very first draw of this event on board Guaranteed a Magnum. Now here's our go-around winner, Abbie Lengel of Weatherford, Texas. She led the preliminary round with a big score of 226.5 and earned her very first trip down through the Gateway of Champions into the show pen for a level 4 final.
Definitely something I dreamed about. After the first go, I knew it was a good run, but I didn't know it was that score. And when they announced it, I thought I was dreaming. It was pretty special.
Just a day ago, Abbie watched as her protege, Sandy Bentine, won the Derby Non-Pro Championship after a runoff with reigning legend Jose Vasquez. Sandy gave Abbie much of the credit for her win, but Abbie says it is the other way around.
I don't know what I would do without her. She's my #1 fan, and she encourages me and supports me more than anybody. So I think I owe her just as much, if not more, credit for everything. I was a mess. I couldn't even sleep last night. It was awesome.
Are you more worried about her than yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm way more nervous when she goes. Way more.
It would be easy for a young rider to come apart in the final after such a big week, but Abbie Lengel proves she belongs in this crowd, earning a solid 224 from the judges on Jody Puno's 6-year-old mare, Arc Ganamarca, by $1 Million sire Ganatrasha. Abbie moves past Andrea Fapani and her boss, Casey Deary, into second behind Jimmy Vanderhoeven. Abbie credits Casey Deary with giving her the mare to ride.
She's taught me more than any other horse I've ever had to ride, just because she's very talented and very gritty, but she's not always very easy. So she has taught me so much about preparing one, showing one, training one, more than any other horse. I'm grateful for that.
A pair of riders were just half a point back from Abbie's 226.5 in the prelims, which puts them in a good spot to try to tackle the 225 of our leader, Jimmy Vanderhoeven. One of them is NRHA $1 Million rider Franco Bertolani. He had 2 nice horses in the final. He has already ridden the first. Here is Franco's second horse, Cardinal Ranch's Done It for Whiskey, Tulsa and Congress Futurity Champion and NRHA Futurity Reserve Champion. Franco puts together a nice run on this son of the NRHA's all-time leading sire and Hall of Fame member Topsail Wiz. He ends up just half a point back of Abbie Lengel with a 223.5. He says the 5-year-old stallion has been putting a considerable amount of his energy into his work as a sire.
He just has been breeding a lot, so I feel a little bit tired at the end, but not this show, like whole career, But he's fine. He's still fresh in the show pen, and he's just like with me everywhere.
The NRHA's all-time leading rider, Hall of Fame member Sean Flaherty, also marked a 226 in the prelim on Jason Dobrinsky's Lucky Moonstone by Spook's Got a Gun, an NRHA $1 Million sire. This is a horse that has been a consistent finalist, and here they are right at the end of the draw with a shot at the lead. Sean has won from this position many a time, and somewhere Jimmy Vanderhoeven and owners Casey and Kathy Hinton are watching and hoping history won't repeat itself. The score for Sean Flaherty and Lucky Moonstone, a 223. So after 31 horses, Jimmy Vanderhoeven's wait is finally over.
Well, it's official now. You're the NRHA Derby champion for 2018. So how does that title feel?
Well, it's awesome. Like, I just got all phone calls from my family and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't expect anything. I just tried to go in there and do the best job I could, and he helped me out a lot. And I made him hunt.
So you waited through 30 horses.
It was a long wait. Yeah, a long one.
Owners Casey and Kathy Hinton are thrilled for Jimmy and for their 5-year-old gelding, Guaranteed a Magnum, who take home both the Level 3 and Level 4 championships.
It's amazing when a plan works out and makes you look like you know what you're doing. A genius, yeah.
Are you ready?
The reserve championship in levels 3 and 4 go to Jody Puno's Art Gunamarkia, ridden by Abbie Lengel, the best showing for a female rider at the NRHA Derby since 2006, when Kelly Zweifel became the only woman to win one of reigning's big 3 events.
I don't know what to say to that, except it's an honor to be compared to that. I can't take credit for it. I can't take credit for all of it. It's a gift from God, for sure.
When we come back, the story of how Nederlander Jimmy van der Hoeven's desperate job search 9 years ago landed him a second family here in the States. Horse of the West will be right back. Don't ride off. Coverage of the NRHA Derby Open Championship Final is generously sponsored by the Alpha Quarter Horses Production Sale, August 29th through September 5th, online at plushorsesales.com. Yearlings and Embryos by stallions like Wimpy's Little Step, Gunner, and Magnum Chick Dream, out of top performance mares including Czexanicki and Shining and Sassy, available for sale online. It's the Alpha Quarter Horses Production Sale, August 29th through September 5th. Bid simply and securely online at plushorsesales.com. The Alpha Quarter Horses Online Production Sale. Bidding opens August 29th at plushorsesales.com. Welcome back to Horse of the West. NRHA Derby Open champion Jimmy van der Hoeven is a native of the Netherlands who ended up training for Casey and Kathy Hinton in Whitesboro, Texas 9 years ago because he was desperate for a job.
And so I get a phone call on a Friday maybe, and it was Jimmy, and he goes, he was asking if we were needing anybody, and I said yes, and I said, what time period would you think? And he goes, Tuesday.
I said, well, I got to be there Tuesday, otherwise they take my visa back. And I didn't ask a lot of questions. I asked if there was a place to stay where I could stay in, and if there was maybe a car to do groceries, but that's really the only 2 questions I asked him, because that's what I wanted. I was a high school kid, a college kid. I wanted to come to the States to learn.
Growing up on a farm in Holland, Jimmy had always been fascinated with reining.
Me and my brother, we used to watch the Veterinary tapes. You know, at that time we didn't have the live stream yet. I'm getting old.
Kathy says it was on the farm that Jimmy learned his work ethic.
I think that the van der Hoevens, which is his other family, I think that they instilled the right things to make him the person he is today. And when he goes back home today, regardless of what he won, his dad is most welcoming to hand him the pitchfork. So keep him humble.
Jimmy ended up becoming part of the Hinton family, or the Vander Hittens as they've come to be known.
He's just like my son, the son I never had.
But he's also part of the larger reining family as well.
When I walk through the stalls in the States where everybody is, that's everybody knows you and talks to you, and so you're part of a family. That's, it's pretty cool. That's not something you thought was going to happen, no. Wanted to happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen.
I'm pretty blessed to have, I guess, a taller son like Jimmy, and I don't know, it's just a special situation.
Coming up in the weeks ahead on Horse of the West, the National High School Rodeo Rein Cow Horse Final, the Mid-Atlantic Classic, the Low Roller Reining Classic, and more. See you then.